What do you see, Dawn, as the promising practices that were involved in your work and maybe emerged from the work or were actually a part of the work that you were doing in
Yeah,
this project?
yeah. So I think this is a really great question. And at first I was like, oh, it was the relationships, but I think I alluded to this before. I believe the most promising practice, and it's actually something that catapulted my own career actually from 2019, was facilitating space and curating space for Black
Mhm.
families to dream and to dream of ideal conditions for their children to thrive in schools. And the second part of that practice that emerged was our ability to kind of leverage, the weight that we had, the RWJF project with school administrators and teachers, right? So again, we articulated the dream and we brought it to them and said, okay, how do we get there, right? And to see school administrators and teachers get on board with that dream. And so for me, this is like folks who do human-centered design, they talk about designing from the edges, right? When you design something from the edges, and we always think about those who are the most marginalized, you know what I mean? And I think about particularly youth violence and in schools. We know that those are Black bodied folks, right? We know quite often those are Black parents, Black caregivers who are excluded oftentimes or find themselves engaging in hostile school environments. So when you ask them to step outside the margins and become centered in that,
Mhm.
right? The edge is shifted. And
Right.
I think that was the most powerful piece of the work, because we saw that when they are creating the vision and they say, we want to invite you into our vision, it began to shift the relationship that was happening between the school administrators, the
Mhm.
educators, and the parents.
So facilitating the folks to move from the margins to the center. That's the
Yes,
promising practice.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Amazing.
yes, yes,
Beautiful.
yes,
That is truly a beautiful description of a different way of being, right?
yes,
As we
yes.
are trying to do work to help people live better lives.
That's right.
And it seems to me like it should be obvious that you engage folks in, things that are intended to impact them positively. But sometimes many times it doesn't end up being that way.
Yeah.
Because they might not have seen it before.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the reimagining part, and that's the beginning of the transformation.
Mhm. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.